Wow, I didn't know so many people like the R9 Fury. Oh, they're probably thinking it's an RX Vega, aren't they? Today, we'll be taking a look at one of AMD's higher-end cards from a few years back, the Radeon R9 Fury. Maybe it's the missing X, or maybe it's just its big brother having a water cooler, but no matter what the reason is, the R9 Fury always felt like the second choice, or the one brother no one really liked, if you will. The R9 Fury is part of 2015's high-end Fiji lineup from AMD. For the first time ever, HBM was brought to the consumer market and people had high hopes. But as it turns out, HBM didn't bring any advantage, in gaming at least, compared to the good old GDDR5, and also it being marketed as a 4K gaming card while only having a memory buffer of 4GB turned off many potential buyers. But one could easily see past this flaw as long as it performs as it should, right? Well, this wasn't the only problem the Furies had when they first came out. There was an additional 7-gram heavy problem. At its release, the R9 Fury X costed $650 and the Fury Non-X $600. That's a steep asking price considering Nvidia's GTX 980 Ti was still a bit faster while costing around the same. As a reaction to the people complaining about its price, the MSRP was lowered to $569 for the R9 Fury X and $499 for the Fury. 2 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new avatar. We discovered another price reduction for the R9 Fury. Yeah, that's it. You could get the Fury now for as little as $300, with some people claiming to have gotten it as cheap as $250 brand new. Today, the used market still contains some Fury series cards around that price. But what even is the R9 Fury? First, a quick overview over the specs. Everything you need to know about the Fury is listed on the screen now, but the most important specs are the 56 VGCUs and the 4GB of HBM Gen 1. It also has a 275 watt TDP, but we'll talk about it in a second. Judging by the Fury's need of two 8-pin PCIe power cables, you might think this card needs a lot of power. Two 8-pins and a PCI Express slot can together supply the card with up to 375 watts of power. Notice how I said up to? The R9 Fury, on its stock settings at least, consumes around 200 to 250 watts. With a die size of 596mm squared, the R9 Fury series has one of the biggest die sizes in the modern GPU market. The bigger the die, the more power it needs. The more power it needs, the hotter it gets. Makes sense, right? Let's see what Sapphire came up with to keep this thing cool. As seen here, there are 5 copper heat pipes covered in 30 cm worth of aluminum heat fins, which actually overextend from the PCB by a few centimeters. Also, this card has 3 fans which feature a so-called zero fan mode, which has the fans completely turned off until the card reaches temperatures of around 60 degrees Celsius. With that in mind, let's see what temperatures this 1.8 kg chunk of plastic covered metal manages to maintain. Idle temperatures hover around the 30 to 38 degrees mark, while a heavy synthetic load results in temperatures of around 74. Now this probably doesn't seem that special, but considering this card also stays close to inaudible while maintaining set temperatures, is pretty impressive in my opinion. Since undervolting was such a trend with the new Vega cards, and Fiji being its predecessor, I thought I might as well give it a shot. And to no one's surprise, temperatures stayed around the same, but it shaved off a good 30 watts of power. It's nothing groundbreaking, but saving energy is always a good thing, right? All theory aside now, it's time for benchmarks. Up first is a game that released 1 month prior to this graphics card, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. On 1080p ultra settings, we've got an average of 40 FPS. That might seem a bit low, but if we turn off Nvidia GameWorks features like Hairworks, we see an average of 60, so that might be the way to go in this game. Some people love it, even more hate it. Up next is a modern game, Destiny 2. In this game and every other game in today's video, I'll be testing in 1440p and 1080p. And just like in the last video, I'm gonna shut up now while you can look through my results. And lastly, let's meme it up a bit and ask the age-old question, but can it run Crysis? 3. As you've just seen, the Fury's performance is really solid on 1080p and is even capable of doing some 4040p gaming, with a few settings turned down, that is. And as for extreme 4K gaming, nah. 3 years ago maybe, but nowadays, not so much. In the end, is the R9 Fury even worth it? Well, if you have a decent power supply with at least 650 watts with two 8-pin PCIe connectors, then yeah, I'd have to recommend it. The Fury had a pretty bad price to performance ratio when it first came out, but considering how much a similarly performing card costs nowadays, this might be one of your best options. Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you find this type of content interesting, please consider subscribing, there's way more to come. Until then, have a nice day.